Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're talking about how you can help prevent breast cancer with your diet, in particular, a plant-based diet. And we're really excited to have Dr. Kristi Funk joining us today. Hi, Dr. Funk. How are you doing?
Hi, Sharon. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to hear more about your tips on how you can eat a diet that can help you fight breast cancer. It's
Well,
such
I'm excited to share them.
Yes, I mean, it's such a devastating disease, and we have so many people touched by this. I know in my family, I have 3 members of my family that have had breast cancer. So it's
Oh,
something
wow.
I'm really, passionate about myself. And I do believe that there's a lot we can do to help prevent it. So we're really excited to have you. And just for the viewers out there, Dr. Funk is an internationally known expert in breast cancer, and she's even treated celebrities like Angelina Jolie and Sheryl Crow, among many others. So we're really excited to have her. So first off, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got inspired to get involved with breast cancer? And
Sure. So, yes, I'm a board certified breast cancer surgeon and mother of triplet boys. And my two biggest passions in life are loving my family and killing cancer. So, that second one entered into my life after residency. So I became a general surgeon and then I wanted to do laparoscopy. So at the time, this was the late 90s and 2000 where it just started, like laparoscopic gallbladder removal, etc. So much so that my attendings, the people who were supposed to teach me, like elbowed me out of the way so they could do it because they were trying to learn. And I knew this was the future. I needed to get better at it because I, just didn't really get trained in it, and came to Los Angeles, Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, to do a fellowship in exactly that. And the man who ran that minimally invasive surgery fellowship ran the breast center at Cedars. And he was like, what you're going to do with your life? You're going to run the breast center. He's darling and I adore him, but he was very male surgeon sort of thing. Like, this is what you're going to do. And, but he was kind. He's like, I'm not pressuring you. You just tell me by Friday. So I kind of introspected, thought about it, and realized that having a real depth of knowledge in one particular organ system that women and men care very much about would lead to a very fulfilling career. So I jumped ship from that, went to the breast fellowship in surgery, completed it, and that was nearly 20 years ago. And
wow.
yeah, it's been a fun career. I stayed at Cedars as a director for 8 years, and then my husband and I co-founded the Pink Lotus Breast Center in Los Angeles, whose sole mission was to fuse state-of-the-art imaging and technology with compassionate holistic care, nutrition being a big part of that as well.
That's just great. And isn't it true that your Pink Lotus Center offers assistance for people that don't have insurance or have limited coverage? Isn't that something that you're passionate about too?
Very much. My husband founded the Pink Lotus Foundation, and I'm the ambassador, and it provides 100% free services, genetics, biopsies, screening, care for low-income, uninsured, and underinsured women.
That's so important because so many people don't have access to this kind of care. So that's great that you're involved with that. And tell us a little bit about your book.
Yes. So, I had and have this thriving career, but everything's so one-on-one, right? And so when people will come to you and say, after the exam, my job is to make sure you don't have breast cancer in your breast right now, right? So I do an exam, I might do an ultrasound, kind of fill out what the things I need to know about the interval, and then I'm leaving. I got to go. I have another patient, right? And they'll say, oh, doc, anything else I should be doing? And I was so torn because it's like, oh, there's so much you should be doing. And sadly, my standing here telling you all about it doesn't pay my rent. Like, there's no reimbursement for this.
Mm-hmm.
And preventive strategies are just not really, they're not important in your training either, right? We don't get anything, not a drop of nutrition throughout medical school and beyond. So I had a lot to say, but I would usually just smile and throw out a pearl, like 3 cups of green tea a day cuts breast cancer in half. Bye. And I really wanted to be deeper than that. So that birthed the idea of the book, which really goes so deep into all of the rigorous scientific evidence for diet and lifestyle interventions to maximally reduce your chances of ever getting cancer, of having it come back if you're already diagnosed, and really to maximize your outcomes. And the biggest outcome, of course, being a healthy, joyful life. So that was the impetus for the book, which became a national bestseller, and it's in hardback and paperback. It's in 10 languages, 30 countries. And that I thought was like, yay, job well done. And then I realized, not so much done, because now I have understood that women, while they do read and will read, they want community. Women want to be around other women. They want to learn in a didactic but fun, entertaining format. It's just the way of the world now, right? Like, entertain me and teach me. So I've now birthed the Cancer Kicking Summit. So that recurs. You can just check pinklotus.com/summit to see when the next one is. But that is an amazing 2-day retreat in a gorgeous, serene setting where we do a deep dive into the soil of your life, really root around, get rid of the weeds that are unproductive, like negative thinking or toxic individuals in your life. And then we fertilize that soil and plant 9 seeds that will spring up and create an orchard of life that leads to your most fruitful, bountiful existence. So it's a really high energy, action-packed 2 days where I have people leaving with a plan in place, right? This isn't the mountaintop experience that you then get totally dissipated in the traffic of LA as you drive back to the airport.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about the Cancer Kicking Summit.
That sounds amazing. And it sounds like you have a really holistic approach to this. You're really going to be looking at the whole person, right?
Definitely. It's mind, body, spirit, soul, all of it. We spend a lot of time in the summit, as I do in parts of the book, but not as actionable. Like, I really teach people to take control of their thinking, for example, right? You say things about yourself. Why? Who told you that? And when did you start believing it? And it's created a pattern of behavior that is not leading to your most joyful life. For example, you could say, I'm a smoker. I've always been a smoker. Oh, okay. So you're not going to quit, because if you quit, you wouldn't be you. I got it. Like, we have to dive into that stuff and change the paradigm, shift the way you think and feel and move and sit and behave, mind body connection. There's a lot of fun, revelatory information in the summit.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm sorry, my dogs are going crazy in the background here. They're joining in our call today.
I like animals.
I work in my office with my dogs, so they're speaking up. So anyway, could we talk a little bit about nutrition and really get focused on some of that? So what are some of the major recommendations that you are, think are really backed by science that people could start working on to reduce their risk of breast cancer?
Right. So when I was writing the nutritional parts of the book, Eat This and Don't Eat That, chapters 3 and 4, I did this huge dive into the nutritional science to really prove with science that the way I ate was correct. So this is the key, because I was not correct. I went in to prove lean meats, chicken, turkey, fish, lots of fruits and vegetables, and I was a teen in the 80s. So I grew up no bread, pasta, rice, or potatoes. You just look at that starchy stuff and you get fat, right? So I went into the science to prove it. I also went into the science, by the way, to prove that you should avoid soy as a phytoestrogen. And as my kids would say, mind blown. Oops, embarrassingly wrong. And I was a bit, angry is too strong, but just taken aback, like, whoa, how is this so clear? And I didn't get a peep about it in my entire life of medical training. This is wrong. I mean, Dean Ornish showed that eating a plant-based diet with some other healthy lifestyle behaviors in July 1990, and I went to medical school in 1992. In 1990, we knew that a plant-based lifestyle could not only limit the progression of the major killer on planet Earth, heart disease, but actually reverse it. Cure people with end-stage cardiac disease who were like sent home to die in wheelchairs on oxygen. They could be running 10 miles a couple months later. I mean, I was blown away by how rich the science is. It's not fluffy, and it's not in, Eat Leaves magazine, it's real journals. We're talking the Lancet and JAMA and, the medical journals that surgical articles are in too. So anyway, I get in there and I'm rooting around, having my mind just widened and widened until finally it burst open. I heard my 3 sons come home from school, ran downstairs. Boys, come here. We run to the fridge. I fling open the refrigerator doors with flair and say, boys, we're going vegan. And they're like, yeah, what is vegan? And I kid you not, we emptied 4 bags to the brim with milk, butter, cheese, eggs, salmon, all the things that were in there that were animal fat and animal protein, and gave them to my 90-year-old parents saying it was too late for them. But that's not true. I never think it's too late for anyone, but they would never talk to me again if they knew I threw all that away. So why though? It's because every time you consume animal protein, so the meat or the fat, and the meat is very fatty, but you get a lot of fat out of the dairy components, you are triggering off a response inside your body that skyrockets estrogen levels. Estrogen feeds and fuels 80% of all breast cancer. You skyrocket growth hormones, the big daddy bad actor being IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor. You create inflammation, free radicals form, and cell damage starts to happen. In fact, the power of food is so incredible that if you were to eat the opposite type of diet, what we're advocating for, a plant-based diet, everything is an antioxidant. You create oxidative stress. So these oxidants are released when you're eating the animal proteins, and they are quelled by antioxidants. So much so that when you eat plant-based, you are lowering your estrogen, lowering your IGF-1, lowering the inflammation, and giving your immune system now the boost it needs to seek out and destroy little baby cancer cells before they can form a life-threatening wad. And it's so powerful that it's borne out in studies. And there are some really fun studies. I detail a number of them in the book. But to give you an example of one, so that no woman can say to me, oh, doc, you know, I'm 66, look at me, I'm fat, and now I have breast cancer. It's too late. Change is not going to matter. Oh, no, sister. Listen to this study. They took 50 obese women, drew their blood, measured the IGF-1. Remember that thing that goes around creating growth. Useful because we turn over like 50 trillion cells a day, so we're glad for IGF-1. But in excess, what else is growing? The plaque in your arteries, the cancer in your breast, right? Mm-hmm. So they measure the IGF-1 and they take their blood, drip it on a petri dish blanketed with breast cancer cells. A few cells die because, you know, they're alive. Their immune system works a little. They go away, and this is the key. How long? 12 days. They eat a plant-based diet and exercise daily, which is like 30 minutes of sauntering, okay? They come back, draw the IGF-1 levels, plummeted, drip the blood on the petri dish filled with breast cancer cells, and 90% of the cells die on the spot.
Wow.
They transform their blood into a cancer-kicking machine in less than 2 weeks. So no, it is never too late to implement healthier diet and lifestyle behaviors.
I agree. And I get older women contacting me all the time asking me, is it too late to eat a plant-based diet? And studies like that really support that it's never too late. And as you mentioned, we can see these benefits immediately in a number of health outcomes, like with cardiovascular disease, diabetes, glucose control. There's so many things that you can see quite quickly. And I also agree with you that, the primary benefit is what you are eating. You're just flooding your body with phytochemicals, which is, those antioxidant and anti-inflammatory compounds that you're talking about. So of course, your body becomes this cancer fighting machine, just as you said. I really appreciate how you describe that in a way that makes us understand it, because cancer is so complicated. So everything makes perfect sense, but there's also a lot of misperception out there, right? Especially when it comes to cancer, that kind of, fights against these healthful messages that make total sense to me, the way you're describing it. So what are some of those misperceptions out there that could lead people in the wrong direction when it comes to their diet?
What a great question. So I think there are two huge misconceptions. One is that the majority of breast cancer comes from an inherited genetic mutation, such as BRCA, or you have to have a family history in order to be higher risk. Okay, false, totally wrong. Only 5 to 10% of all breast cancer comes from inherited mutations. 5 to 10%. 87% of women with breast cancer don't have a single first-degree relative with breast cancer. And 80% don't have any relatives. Okay, so it's a very small minority who can truly blame mom or dad for giving them a bad, faulty gene that can't correct DNA when it goes awry, in particularly breasts and ovaries, some other organs too, right? So you either have a very strong family history of multiple cancers, particularly at younger ages, then your red flag might get waved that maybe you do. Maybe I'm not dismissing that 5 to 10, those 5 to 10%. have, you know, a lot of preventive strategies to think through that go beyond diet because their risk is so high. But what about everybody else? We're talking 90 to 95% of breast cancer on planet Earth is not from inherited genetics or family history. So what is it? And the answer is diet and lifestyle, and things like being obese, not exercising, living a sedentary lifestyle, taking hormone replacement therapy, being super emotionally stressed out all of the time, getting barraged by all of these environmental toxicities with which we walk through life. But you can, if you're judicious about it, limit your exposures. But first and foremost among it all is diet. So misconception number 2, you asked where the myths come from. One is, I think even doctors still think in the intake, they're like, oh, there's no family history. Okay, moving on. Like they don't even think about the breast stuff, right?
Exactly.
Misconception number 2 is that there are so many fad diets out there and they get a lot of press, and there seems to be a new one every year or two. I mean, you can say like every week, but that's not true. But you know, we're now revisiting, right? Now we've got paleo and keto, which is just a remake of the Atkins and the South Beach, and it's very meat centric, right? It's high protein, low carb. And while there isn't a single randomized controlled trial proving, like Dean Ornish did, that you can reverse the number 1 killer of you and everybody you love on planet Earth with a paleo diet, there's no such study. And the long-term effects of eating a high-fat and very inflammatory diet with all of that protein are going to be largely cardiovascular. But in the short term, obese people lose weight, and diabetics lower their insulin requirements, for example, on keto. It's maybe a diet for, originally it was, you know, promoted because they realized it could stop seizures in young children. But beyond that, it espouses for eliminating all the processed foods, all of those things that are high in salt and oil and refined sugars. So if you're going to drop out all that processed food, and then it does allow, like say paleo, for leafy greens and lean meats, well, you're going to, in the short term, lose some weight, which is going to improve insulin sensitivity and improve the diabetic front. But it's not because you're eating high protein, low carb. It's in spite of that, because of everything else you adhered to get rid of all the other processed and highly inflammatory foods.
Right.
So I think the second misconception that's extremely detrimental, keeping women away from really embracing a whole food plant-based diet, is that misinformation about other diets, which seems so sexy, right? Everybody would be like, really? I can have as much bacon as I want? I can put butter in my coffee? You know.
Yeah,
you can, until you die of your heart disease and you get to fit in a skinnier casket. Okay.
Yeah, and I think one, you mentioned it briefly, is the soy. You know, I get so many questions on soy, and you know, when it comes to breast cancer, maybe you could kind of clear up some of those confusions too.
I'd love to, since I was a confusion maker for 18 years of my career, until I just read the science. And what happened probably is 2 things. We understood, we being doctors, that there were phytoestrogens, plant-based estrogens in soy, right? Isoflavones, genistein being the big one. And we would say, with no evidence whatsoever, you don't know what that's doing in your body. Like, how much do you love soy? Just spit the miso out of your mouth. There's no more soy for you. And I told that to every breast cancer patient. Whoops. But the thing is, if you did look at the science, you'd see that the results in petri dishes and mice in soy were kind of all over the place, mostly beneficial. But maybe if you grafted mice with breast cancer and fed them soy, 10% of those tumors would grow. And I knew that. And I'd be like, you know what? I know that mice aren't women, but at the same time, again, we just don't know. So stop it with the soy milk. Okay. Yeah. But here's the error of everybody's ways. Since 2009, there have been 8 excellent human studies proving that the consumption of soy not only decreases breast cancer occurrence by up to 60%, but recurrence in women who have breast cancer, who have estrogen-driven cancers, and they're on tamoxifen. High soy consumption versus low dropped in this one multi-ethnic study, American study, so it's not just the Asian populations who tend to eat more soy, dropped recurrence by 60% and death by 29%. So why is, to briefly explain, because this will create an aha moment for some of our viewers. We've got two receptors in our bodies for estrogen, alpha and beta. Alpha is attached to the cancer, and when estrogen hits it, it sends a signal to the cancer to multiply and divide. But soy, with 1,600% more affinity, likes beta. And what does it do there? Two amazing things. Shuts alpha down, so it knocks basically out the receptor that's the cancer promoter with the estrogen duo. And it goes out into your fat cells, where everywhere you have a fat cell, you have an enzyme called aromatase. And that is busy churning other steroids, like from your adrenal gland, testosterone being one, into estrogen. And soy inhibits aromatase, shuts down the mechanism that makes extra estrogen. Mm-hmm. And by decreasing estrogen, we're decreasing the formation and progression of these breast cancers. Interestingly, it also works amazingly against estrogen negative cancers. So cancers that don't care anything about estrogen. There's a big Korean BRCA carrier study. And those high versus low consumption, 43% less breast cancer. In people with a bad mutation that is likely to lead to cancer, more likely than not, depending on how old you are. And that tells you that soy also possesses some powerful anti-carcinogenic properties, in addition to just being anti-estrogen, not even pro-estrogen. So there you have it. Soy it up.
Yes. And I also think when you look at populations where historically they've consumed a large amount of soy, they have lower risks of breast cancer. We've known that for a long time. But this is a great, I really thank you for explaining that so well, because, there is so much confusion and it dates back, and now you just get everybody, every time I go to get a coffee and I order a soy latte, I get a little lecture from the barista about how I shouldn't be having that. So, I always want to sit down with them and give them a little education on how soy is not, linked to increased risk of breast cancer. And in fact, the American Institute for Cancer Research says that it's safe. We have the large bodies of, health organizations that are saying it's safe in moderation. So we have to get beyond this whole soy fear mongering.
Interestingly, I was wondering how much is too much with soy. I advocate for 2 to 3 servings daily. There are 3 things I get in my body every single day. It's 2 to 3 servings of soy, a half a cup of raw broccoli, and 1 tablespoon or more of ground flax seeds. Just FYI, but soy is among them. And I was wondering if there is such a thing as too much. And it turns out that in studies, we're sure that 4 servings a day would be fine. We don't know about 5 and 6, and we know that 7 will elevate your IGF-1.
Okay. Yeah.
So keep it to 2 to 3, and you're totally in the not only safe zone, but preventive zone.
Yeah, that's what I recommend too, is 2 to 3. And I have it in my diet every day. I'm the only woman in my entire immediate family who's not had breast cancer. So
is that right?
I'm working on it, but yeah, I try to have at least 2 servings at 2 to 3, but usually get 2. And I love what you were just saying about some of the things you do every day. Like you have the soy, the broccoli, the flax. Are there any other things that you would recommend that people do, just kind of add some diet strategies to their life every day to fight cancer?
Yes. So one thing is I created an antioxidant smoothie recipe that's totally free. You don't even need to buy the book, but it's on page 69. If you just go to breastmanual.com, that's the book website. There's the recipes there for free. Okay. It's something that I have been working, perfecting since 2005. I think I started this smoothie, but now every time I read a study about something powerful, I'm like, boop, in it goes. So the base of it, it's because it's kind of daunting to get all of these things inside your body every day. Mm-hmm. You might not even eat that many meals to be able to really fit it in, so the smoothie is a great way to sneak in. For example, what's in there: 1.5 cups of soy milk, done with my soy for the day, right? 2 fistfuls of greens. Awesome. You can never have too many of the leafy greens. But now here's some stuff I can sneak in that I won't necessarily get otherwise. Mm-hmm. So I've got my turmeric, which has the powerful anti-inflammatory curcumin component, right? Okay. Turmeric is relatively useless unless you're consuming it with fat, and the piperine and black pepper, right? So I grind in some black pepper, and my fat comes from my ground flax seeds. Perfect. So that tablespoon of flax is the highest, most concentrated source of omega-3 fatty acids on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. And it's very high in lignans, highest food in lignans, period. Yeah. Lignans are anti-estrogens. So you get that in there. So then some other couple tidbits in the smoothie, for example, go aloe vera gel, the inner fillet, very anti-inflammatory. So we drop a third of a cup of that in there. And then I read this study that looked at, it was over 3,000 foods, measured the antioxidant capacity of each food. Everything from like Coca-Cola to coconuts. I mean, it's a massive list, right? Yeah. The tippity top, 124 times the antioxidant power of the blueberry was the Indian gooseberry.
Oh.
But we're not in India, and I don't know where to get that. But you can get it online in the powdered form. It's called amla. So boop, in goes the amla. And you blend it up because the base of it is the soy milk. Oh, and I didn't say a cup and a half of berries.
Okay.
Berries are so powerful.
Right.
At seeking out and destroying cancer cells, decreasing inflammation, reducing angiogenesis, angio blood vessel genesis birth. Cancers require birthing new blood vessels to them to help bring their nutrients to grow and multiply. And then finally, when they're big enough, boop, exit strategy, straight out those same blood vessels to your brain or lung or liver. So a big component to the smoothie is berries. So it's delicious, basically. You get the soy and the berries. It's already good. And when you throw in that other stuff, you don't even know.
I love that. I have a colleague who's a dietitian in cancer care, and she does something similar. She recommends just this almost like a pharmaceutical, smoothie every day. I don't like the word pharmaceutical, but, like a treatment sort of smoothie every day that's very proactive in the ingredients you're putting in there. So it sounds like something very similar that you're recommending. Yeah,
you do feel a little bit superhuman after you drink it.
Yes. Do you have any other diet tips? I love that about the smoothie, because then you're really just, making sure you fit those ingredients into your day every day. But do you have any other tips that you'd like to share?
Sure. One other one that's important to know is broccoli. Okay, so this is like the superhero of all superheroes. And what makes it so cool is that its chemical formula in there is an isothiocyanate. So this ITC, when you chew and swallow raw or lightly steamed broccoli, and this is the tip coming, when you chew it raw and lightly steamed, you're breaking down the cell wall, releasing an enzyme called myrosinase, which takes that ITC chemical and moves it into, creates something that wasn't there before, sulforaphane, which is above all other phytonutrients that I've ever read about. It's more research than other, which, by the way, beware, leads to supplement companies going, oh, sulforaphane, you say? So broccoli sprouts are the best. Broccoli sprouts have 100 times more sulforaphane than broccoli. So I'm just going to pulverize and powderize the broccoli sprout and sell it to you for big buck. Just eat the broccoli sprouts, people. And then the key with the way to eat the broccoli is that heat destroys the myrosinase. So you don't get the sulforaphane when you eat deliciously roasted broccoli. But if you're like me and you're like, but that I think is my favorite food on earth, like roasted broccoli, here's your trick. Just chop up some raw and throw it in and mix it in. And the raw gives you the myrosinase. And now you're getting the most bang out of your brock with you can still eat it roasted, just add some. Mustard seed also has myrosinase. So mustard seed powder, just a pinch in studies was enough to reactivate the myrosinase transition.
I use mustard seed a lot in my cooking. So would that apply to other cruciferous veggies and that like the cauliflowers and the cabbages or Brussels sprouts, those kinds of things?
Yes, Kayla, really well. And you get a similar story going on with your allium family, right? So chives, onions, and shallots and scallions, etc. So the enzyme in that cell wall gets destroyed by cooking. So whenever you chop up scallions and then you saute with onions, you've heated it, you've cooked it, you've destroyed. Alliinase is the name of that enzyme. So you want to make sure you add some raw. Or you can blend it. So you can do, like if you're making a sauce or something, blend it. And while it's raw, it gets blended and the enzymes get released. And then you can pour it into your supplement.
It's just all about all these beautiful plant foods. And it's also a delicious way of eating too, right? It's a vibrant way of fighting cancer every day.
It's so colorful. It's on the plate. It's so beautiful. My kids have acclimated to this way of eating. I mean, we really did go cold turkey in a day, done. And it's been years. And I tell them that your taste buds change every 10 days. So when they look at something like, I don't like mushrooms, I'm like, oh no, that was 12 days ago. You might like them today. You got to try. And, they eat a lot of foods that at first they were just like, don't do lentils. And now they don't even comment. They devour lentils. So,
Yeah. My
we're
kids
so,
are the same.
yeah,
Yeah, things they didn't used to love, they love now, and especially as they get older. So
right.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about some of the new programs you're working on, and if you'd like to share, some of your site and any other resources that
Oh, thanks.
can gain from.
I would love for everyone to know about pinklotus.com. So this is a website. When you go into, just remember pinklotus.com, you'll see 4 different entities. One's the breast center. So it's our, brick and mortar in LA. The other's the foundation that you mentioned for the low income, uninsured and underinsured women needing some care, breast care. And then we've got 2 more things. One is Elements, which is our online store filled with such useful and very vetted things. Everything from some supplements. I'm not a big supplement person, but there's one in particular, Menopause Miracle, which is a non-estrogenic 3 Asian herb blend, 3 randomized controlled trials behind it, proving efficacy and safety. And over 90% of women are like, what hot flashes? And I'm not kidding. Like, it's amazing.
Cool.
So that store has nothing kitschy. There's no mugs. There's no ribbon earrings. It's things that I've seen in my 20+ year career that help. They either have science behind them because it's there, or they're just really useful things like a post-surgical bra with drain holders, right? So before, during, and after, it's for all women. And then the thing I'm most proud of and excited about is totally free, and it's called Power Up. So this is our online social community for purposes of psychosocial support, and or you can get in there and learn. There's tons of blogs and videos and my podcast information, but it has a beautiful couple of elements that people should know about. One is you have breast buddies in there. So now you go in and you're either newly diagnosed or you've been there, done that, and you want to come alongside someone newly diagnosed for purposes of being a friend and just being supportive. So you go in as a new diagnosis, right? And you'll say maybe 42 years old, mastectomy, chemotherapy, and like Match.com, all the women who have been there, done that populate. And you could see, like, oh, she has a 5-year-old son. I want to talk to her because, yeah, I'm like her. This helps people talk age to age, plus or minus 5 years, stage for stage. Because I always say there's no reason for DCIS, for just stage 0 breast cancer, to get advice from stage 3. It totally changes. There's 21 different subtypes of cancer, and they all have different prognoses. And you just, right? So that's Breast Buddies, which is amazing. We've got something like Craigslist, but it's called Breastless, where you can buy, sell, trade, give away your gently used wigs, scarves, hats, surgical bras. Because people don't know what to do. They're like, I spent $4,000 on this wig and I never want to see it again, but I'm not going to throw it away, right? So we've got that. We've got GoFundMe, but it's called crowdsource. So it's cheaper than any other way you can raise money that exists right now. So you go on and say, I need, XYZ, $2,000 for something. And then we've got all the functionality of Facebook. So you go in with a profile, and you can chat, you can go into rooms and like, I want to talk about tamoxifen because it's making me like hot flash my way to a divorce. And so you talk, it's an amazing community in there. And it's live and real. And you can also be kind of a voyeur. You can make a profile, but go dark and then be able to really explore it to see if you want to declare yourself really there. It's fun though, and really educational. And then of course my summit that's coming up, we talked about.
Yes. I love that about community, because I'm sure you can share with us some of the research that shows in breast cancer treatment, the community aspect is so important for fighting cancer, for long-term survival. So I love that you're doing that.
Yeah, you can boost your immune system function. Like you can measure blood draws in people who report out high versus low psychosocial support or religious affiliation, and having a church community or a synagogue, etc. And there was one amazing LACE, the Life After Cancer Epidemiology Study, looked at almost 2,000, this is the key, early stage breast cancers. And over the next 10 years, if you reported out high support versus low, so if you had high support, you were 57% more likely to be alive 10 years later than low support.
It's so important. I mean, this is even something you see in the blue zones, the research from Dan Buettner's on this, and people that live the longest have that social support. So this is a wonderful thing that you're doing. I'm going to be sharing all that information on the blog that goes with this interview. So I'll share some of those links, the resources, all of that information. Thank you
Terrific.
so much for joining us today, Dr. Funk. I mean, it was just wonderful. You gave us so much information. You explained things that I didn't understand very well, and I'm sure all of our viewers will learn from that as well.
Oh, thanks, Sharon. It's always fun to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks so much. So make sure to check out this blog that goes with this interview at SharonPalmer.com. And please check out all of Dr. Funk's resources. This is Sharon Palmer reminding you to eat and live well.